Hi again, it's John Florez with a two-part episode for you. This should be kind of fun. The first has to do with having read a couple of fabulous books on the music business. Everybody Had an Ocean by William McKean and Anything for a Hit by Dorothy Carvello. Dorothy Carvello was the nation's first female A&R person. Boy, are these great reads, and did they open my eyes to stuff that was going on in the business. I guess I may have hunched was going on, but I was so naive that I didn't have a clue. Okay, whoops, this is an insert recorded a couple days later after I had cut the first stuff. I just finished Anything for a Hit, and a couple of thoughts occurred to me that I just have to share with you. So here goes. She and I shared exactly the same job title for major labels. She was A&R, Artist and Repertoire. But she started in the early 80s and I started in the late 60s. So that job definition really changed between my era and hers. So her era from the 80s on consisted of an A&R rep basically trying to find an act to sign and then routing them through the system to get them promoted, the label backing them, and all the politics involved with that stuff. Hey, I wasn't involved in any of that, and I had the same job title. I highly recommend her book. I really think you'll love it as much as Hitman, which was a fabulous read a couple of decades ago. But this book takes you in the rooms with her as she goes from label to label as an A&R rep, and the stuff she encountered is absolutely unbelievably atrocious. You gotta read it. It's like a political swamp. She was a politician with good ears. She started as a secretary, went through the ranks, worked her way, fought her way up through a male-dominated society within the record industry, and had her successes and failures. Great. But we didn't experience the same thing at all. She was not a musician, and that's not a rap, that's just a fact. So when I came in the late 60s to be a staff producer at RCA, musicians were in charge of creative divisions everywhere within the major labels. So for instance, Chet Atkins, the world-famous guitarist, he was head of A&R for RCA's Nashville branch. Ernie Altshuler was head of RCA New York A&R, and he produced a theme from A Summer Place, I Left My Heart in San Francisco, It's Impossible, standards like that were just incredible. And Joe Reisman, my boss, head of RCA LA A&R, he was the Joe Reisman Orchestra and Chorus for Reader's Digest. He started his career playing in big bands, worked his way up into the record industry, into A&R, and he produced Henry Mancini, Hugo Montenegro, a whole bunch of legitimate orchestral acts. Joe was a consummate musician. When I was hired, I had had my own band for several years. I had been in the studio working with musicians for several years, and my job consisted not one bit of politics. When I encountered a bit of politics, I was absolutely stunned because it had zero to do with music, and I was there as a musician making music. I had to find the group or be assigned the group, didn't matter which, because I was the music guy, right? I didn't work with bands, so the artists didn't have their material. I worked with vocalists. I was responsible for knowing all the publishers' representatives, finding the best possible material for the acts, hiring individually the best drummer, the best bass player, the best pianist, the best everything, the best arranger, whoever was required. I musically had to know the difference between all their styles. I would then take them into the studio, help direct their performances, and with the artists themselves, select the key for the song, select the tempo for the song, select the groove for the song, take them all in, help direct their performances as singers, and then sit at the mixing board and mix, along with the engineer, all the instruments and vocal tracks. Mix it down into a package, take it to the mastering room, and make further adjustments there so that the music sounded better. At that point, I handed over the final product to the record label, and that's when Dorothy's politicians came into play and decided whether to promote it or not. My entire life was spent musically, nothing to do with the industry of music. I was authentically music. And I remember when Wally Holmes had Rock the Boat and continued to push for cutting it and recutting it and getting it till it was right. And I said, I don't like the tune. Well, that didn't matter. He said, John, feed the machine. Feed the music machine. I had no intention of feeding the music machine. I just wanted to make the best music possible, and that's all I ever saw. I was in the studio nearly around the clock when I wasn't doing office hours or meeting with music publishers. I didn't socialize, I didn't politic, I didn't ask for gigs, I didn't do anything. All I did was either find something new and present it, or take what was given me and go in and spend usually up to 3 months creating hopefully a hit record, but creating the very best possible music that hopefully matched the best those artists were capable of. Okay? I was an encourager. I was a musician who was an encourager. And I remember when we got a new head of A&R, and I said, I need to go back in the studio and take this up a step. And he said, is there a stairway involved, John? I don't know what you mean, take it up a step. And I thought, oh my goodness, here we go. We have a new generation of people working at the label who don't know music. And this is not in any way to demean Dorothy's career at all. The job responsibility for that title changed. So she did a great job at what she did, and I did as good a job as I possibly could at what I did. It's just ironic that it was the same job title. And as for the absolute debauchery that went on in those rooms all across the country, whether at the office or away on trips, at conventions, at distributors and promoters, at the artist places, I never saw any of it. I never saw any of it. Okay, back to the original recording. The William McKean book, Everybody Had a Notion, it's about the music business in the 60s. And there was a social side to that business, and also in the studio, in terms of recreational drugs and all of that, that I never saw. And the reason I never saw it was because basically I was an RCA corporate producer, very straight, very naive. Rick Gerard, my office mate, another fabulous producer, he was kind of just like me. We were both married. We lived a block away from each other in Tarzana, California with our wives. And Al DeLory at Capitol, he was really straight-laced. So was Jerry Fuller at Columbia. We were all just kind of corporate guys. And when I read about the stuff that was going on in people's social lives, let alone in the studio, it was just jaw-dropping to me. First, I didn't allow any drugs or any alcohol in the studio with 2 exceptions, and I won't name the 2 exceptions. They were alcohol only, and they were really mild, okay? I insisted that whatever went on in terms of consumption of substances would go on before or after our studio dates, but for the most part, everybody had to come in clean. So that was the studio end of things. So I'm sorry, I just never saw any of the other stuff that was going on because it wasn't a part of my life. And in fact, my rules prohibited it. But the social side, in terms of out and about town, first, Carol and I never went to any industry functions or industry parties. Basically, my wife and I had a circle of 3 or 4 of us couples who got together for, get this, our wild night out on the town, Monopoly games. Yeah, that's right. And to my memory, we didn't drink alcohol on the Friday or Saturday or Sunday night that we got together for that. Darnielle Pershing and his wife Diane at the time, we would get together on Saturday nights, bring an apple pie and watch Mary Tyler Moore and the Bob Newhart Show. Oh my God, these were our nights out. You probably knew about all of this stuff, but I didn't. The second thing I want to share is how I remastered my single with Helen Reddy from 1979. It was called Let Me Be Your Woman. I was not allowed to mix it because I had basically been thrown off the project midway through it, and in fact hadn't been paid for, it took several months before I finally got my check, and I spent thousands of dollars in legal fees trying to get it. But the single's a pretty good single, and because I wasn't able to mix it, I so totally disagree with what was done to it that I need to show you what I would have done had I been allowed to mix my own track. So what you're going to hear and see is before and after A/B comparisons of the original mix done by another producer of my single that I did with Helen, and then my mix intertwined with that so you can hear the difference. And on the screen I will state what those differences are for those of you that have trouble hearing things like that. And I'll kind of give you a tip off on the first portion, which is the tempo was just a little bit quick, and this is supposed to be romantic. So in my remaster, I have slowed it down a little bit, and then when the chorus happens, I would not have had Helen sing out, meaning sing loudly and emotionally on the choruses. I would have kept it romantic and soft. That's just a choice. She sang her ass off on the chorus singing out, so who am I to criticize? But I would have had the band basically explode on the chorus and let her continue to be romantic. And you'll hear the rhythm section explode on my remaster, but you'll still hear her singing out because there's nothing I can do about that. Okay, but the other tips will be on the screen. I hope you enjoy the A/B comparison. And as always, thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.
You're a man, let me be your woman. Let me be your woman. You're a man, let me be your woman. Let me be your woman. You're a man, and I wanna love you. And I wanna love you. Let me be the one you come to for your loving times. You're a man, and I wanna love you. And I wanna love you. Let me be the one you come to for your